Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you doing today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? Please let me know in the comments. Today we're going to talk about a product that was sent to me many months ago Okay, so last year or the year before last, I reached out to Evolution Tools because they had a program for content creators, and I said, hey, I'm in the need of a miter saw. Do you have any interest in sending me a miter saw? And they said, sure. So they sent me the Evolution Rage 3 miter saw, and we did an unboxing, and I talked about it and said, oh, this is really nice and really well made. And then that was that. And since then, my opinions on that saw have changed. So this year, Evolution reached out to me and said, hey, we want to send you another saw. Can we send you our circular saw? And you do some, talk about it. And I said, sure. So they sent me the saw, and I've been using it for months now. I've probably had this saw for 5 or 6 months. It's been a while. And I haven't talked about it. And the reason is I talked glowingly about the miter saw, and then I ended up kind of backtracking on that and thinking I wish I had kept the $90 saw that I replaced with that. So I wanted to actually use this before I did any talking about it or showing it. And I've used it a lot. I don't know if you can tell how nasty and dusty it is. I've used the heck out of it. And I only have good things to say about it. Whereas the miter saw, I don't see the purpose of it. It's a stationary saw that can cut metal or wood or whatever you want to stick into it. And that's all fine and dandy, but it doesn't really have a purpose in my eyes. Like if you're a metal shop, you're not going to buy a cold cut saw that also cuts wood. That doesn't do you any good. If you're a wood shop, you're not going to buy a saw that maybe sometimes cuts wood, but you have to change the blade or what. So I don't see the point of that. This, I have found a very good specific use case for. On top of, it's just a good saw. It's not super heavy. It's got some sort of alloy body and base plate. There is quite a bit of plastic. The motor shroud is in plastic. The handles are all plastic. All the little adjustment levers and blade guard adjustments are in plastic. That blade guard's actually metal though. This is all plastic. Dust port ejection is plastic. So there is a lot of plastic on here, but the main saw components that are important to a user are all metal. And I can tell you that right out of the box, this thing cut perfect. Perfectly square to both sides of this base plate. Perfectly 90 degrees. When you set it at 90, it's at 90. And I didn't have to do anything to set it up. And that's amazing to me. I've never experienced that with a tool, including the Rage 3, which Evolution also makes. So the reason that I haven't talked about the saw yet was because I was going to put together some video footage of me using it, and I was going to make a project with it, and none of that has happened. And so I'm just going to talk about it now. You will see it in upcoming project videos. I know I've been talking about this desk build for a while, but I ripped all the plywood with this saw. I've ripped the desk top with this saw. You'll see it in that video. I like it, but here's the thing. This is the use case that I've discovered for this saw. And somewhere they sent me a box full of stuff I was supposed to show you, I guess, cutting it or something. I don't know. Maybe someday we'll do that video. The use case I've found, if you don't know how these saws work, they are a slow RPM saw. This one spins at 3,700 RPM, where I think like a normal circular saw is more like 4,500. So it's a slower spin. It's got a slow startup, so when you pull the trigger, it creeps up slowly. That slow speed is because this can cut mild steel. You can cut straight through some steel, wood, whatever you want to stick under this thing. That's not true. Don't do that. Hardened steel probably would be a problem. It'll cut through mild steel, wood, plastic, brass, copper, whatever you want to stick into it. And it does all of those things okay. I'm changing the blade tonight, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, because the one thing it doesn't do okay is make fine cuts with the blade that comes on it. The blade that comes on it is made to cut all of those various materials, and it does that in a very special way. It has these little kicker teeth that I don't really know what they're for. I'll show them to you here. It has these little teeth guard thingies that I assume means you can't jam this thing hard into a hard surface. It would glance off before this piece would catch. So you can't shove this saw too far hard into a piece of mild steel. I believe that's what that's for. Not positive. But this blade is like, I don't know, 12 tooth or something. It says 16. 16 tooth. It does not cut very well at all. If you're going to do any kind of plywood cutting or any kind of cutting in hardwood or fine wood, you definitely don't want to use that saw blade. It will mar your work. So changing it out for a 60 tooth or something makes the saw run perfectly. Now, the reason that I have that blade in here, and the reason that I haven't done this video before, was because I was going to show you it in action. The use case I found for this is reclaimed wood. If you are using pallets, if you are using reclaimed barnwood or any kind of reclaimed construction lumber, I've built this table out of reclaimed construction lumber. I've built tons of things out of pallets. This saw is perfect for that. This thing will chew through nails, it'll chew through screws, it'll chew through anything that could be potentially in those boards without kickback, without injuring you, without sending things flying. It works beautifully. The dust ejection works great. Use it, though, or it will throw it in your face. And when you're cutting through metal, it can be a bit concerning when you've got, like, you know, wood chips with some sparks flying at you. Cutting pallets with this thing is the best thing ever. It's like a dream. I used to use the reciprocating saw and like cut down the sides and basically waste a bunch of wood. I would cut the middles out and waste all of that. I don't have to do that with this anymore. I can rip right through those nails, right over the heads of those nails, and I get a couple of inches of extra wood out of the material. I can rip right through those side stretchers and not care if there's nails in there or staples or whatever else might be stuck to your pallets. And I no longer have to worry about having a magnet on hand or a metal detector on hand to try to figure out if I'm going to end up hurting myself by cutting through some steel. I can do it. I can just stick it under this saw and let her rip and see what happens, and it works wonderfully. That is the use case I see this for. It's still not the kind of saw that I would consider to be a fine woodworker saw. It's not the kind of saw that I would say if you're a metal shop you should own this saw. Chances are if you're a metal shop you've got plasma cutters or you have you know, cold cut saws, a actual metal cold cut saw or a band saw that will do a better job. But with this little guy and some reclaimed wood, you can make all kinds of stuff. And on top of that, it's only like $100. It's a beautiful price point. It feels great when you're using it. It feels powerful. It doesn't bog down. The slow startup is wonderful, especially if you forget to not push the saw into the wood first. I can definitely recommend it. I've used a multitude of various brands of circular saws, and I would say this competes with pretty much any consumer grade saw I've ever used. And I was so impressed with how dead on accurate this was out of the box that it kind of blew me away. So I know this has been a really long commercial, but I've been putting it off for so long because I wanted to say the right things or I wanted to have footage, and I'm never going to get around to it. So there it is. It's the Evolution something or other circular saw, multi-material circular saw. It's cool. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends, being wonderful people. I appreciate you, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, Doc, wait! I want to ask you something.
Today's random fact comes from BleacherReport.com. How old was Wayne Gretzky when he retired? Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player of all time, retired at the age 38, right before the conclusion of the 98-99 NHL season. Having led the league in assists in 2 of the past 3 seasons and having led the Rangers in scoring for the 3rd straight season, he certainly retired when he was on top.